You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Good morning! Happy Thursday, happy Jupiter day. I love that we already have people showing up this morning. Hey Shauna, thanks for being here. Alex, great to see you. How's everybody feeling? We have the moon in Gemini now, and that's what we're really going to be focusing on today because no other major planetary connections are happening. But today is sort of like the calm before the storm, if you will, because it's all about the Gemini moon making some really positive connections to Chiron, to Mercury, to Saturn. But as we've been talking about all week, Mercury stations retrograde tomorrow. So this is kind of that nice, calm day to kind of get things together, get our wits about us as Mercury rules our mindset before the planet of communication starts its backspin. And it's also important to note that Mercury's been in its shadow period for the past 2 weeks. So if you've already felt like there have been some tech glitches or miscommunications, Mercury's already starting to kind of creep in with that retrograde influence. And of course, Venus is retrograde too. So over the next couple weeks, anything that's not supposed to be in your life, probably going to be cleared out. Or any issues that you've been ignoring, probably going to be brought up. So, fair warning, luckily you're here. We can walk through all the energy together. We can align with it. We can vent about it together on here. And we can find the silver linings. Yeah, Shauna, love Gemini moons. I know your daughter is a double Gemini. I have to ask you though, she's like 1 now, right? Or she's older than 1. She's 18 months. So is she starting to get chatty? Is she starting to be more talkative? Because we know Geminis love to talk, and we'll all be a little bit more chatty over the next couple days. My mom has a Gemini moon too. So I am, and my sister-in-law. So I am definitely a fan of the Gemini moon. And as a Gemini South Node, as a Virgo also ruled by Mercury, I'm like, bring on all the Gemini energy. Let's talk. Let's learn new information. That's what the Gemini moon is all about. Yes. Ugh, okay, Shauna. Shauna's just like my ultimate hype woman here. Next few weeks of Mercury retrograde is a great time to get a reading because really, yes, Mercury retrograde is that time to reflect, to review. We can kind of have breakthroughs or downloads or observe our own patterning, observe what's not working in our life, and adjust. Retrogrades, you can think of that RE, retrograde, review, reflect, revise, so making those adjustments. And yes, so chatty. Yeah, I had a feeling. I know you post sometimes on Instagram her doing cute, fun little things, but what a fun age, especially with the double Gemini. I'm sure she's expanding her vocabulary, and I know she's learning multiple languages too, so how perfect for your little double Gemini. All right, let's pull up the chart here and we'll see what's going on. So the moon is at 7 degrees in Gemini now. Excuse me, as my nose is starting to run. Not fun. All right, moon's in Gemini, 7 degrees. So the moon actually already made a connection to Jupiter at 2 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're watching this and you live on the East Coast or you live in another part of the world, you were probably feeling pretty good as you were waking up this morning, even though we're talking about a square, which is a harsh angle, that 90-degree angle that can bring challenges or conflict. When Jupiter is involved, it kind of forces us to see the silver linings. It forces us to be optimistic. And we get a boost of generosity, positive energy that we really can't ignore when the moon squares off to Jupiter, especially with Jupiter in Pisces, helping us expand our mind and lean into our imagination and be a little bit dreamier when it comes to our optimism and our abundance. And the moon in Gemini, I like to think that the moon in Gemini is very positive because it helps us express our emotions. Like I said, we enjoy learning new information. We can communicate more easily. I am partial to Gemini energy, like I just explained, but I think as we're preparing for Mercury to go retrograde tomorrow, there are no accidents, and the moon in Gemini today is really giving us a chance to work through any communication before Mercury goes full-blown retrograde on us. So the moon squared off to Jupiter at 2 a.m. right after it entered Gemini just a few hours later, and we might have felt more generous, more abundant, more optimistic to start the day, or you might have just had some like nice, pleasant dreams if you were asleep at that time. The moon at noon today, Pacific time, forms, so the rest of our transits today are really positive. I'm just going to preface it with that. Nothing negative coming our way today, okay? We'll talk about Mercury retrograde tomorrow. But today, the Gemini moon is just, it's got our back. It's got our back today. So the moon forms a sextile to Chiron at noon. So in just a couple hours, regardless of where you're watching this, in about 2 hours from now, the moon will form this nice supportive 60-degree angle to Chiron in Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer. It represents our deepest pains and our ability to heal ourselves and then heal other people once we learn to heal ourselves. So I like that we have this nice supportive connection to Chiron today, especially with the moon in Gemini, because this really gives us that opportunity to have a healing conversation, to move the needle in our healing journey. But we do have to put a little effort into it. This is a sextile. It requires a little bit of action. So we have to show up more vulnerably. We have to broach that uncomfortable conversation first. We have to be willing to go there. But if we are willing to go there, we could gain a deeper understanding of our own healing and gain a deeper understanding of how to help other people. And you know, like I said, there are no accidents. The transits happen in perfect timing and bring the energy we need to be able to navigate life to the best of our ability, to learn the lessons we need to learn. And I really don't think there's an accident that we get this nice support from Chiron the day before Mercury goes retrograde. Because like I said, retrogrades can feel like we're going backwards. Venus is retrograde too. So if it's felt like your relationships or your finances have kind of moved backward over the past month, or you've taken a step back, you can attribute that to Venus retrograde. When Mercury is retrograde, we tend to have travel issues. We tend to have communication issues. We tend to have some tech issues, all things ruled by Mercury. So always an opportunity, just as Shauna mentioned. It's a great time to get an astrology reading if you are feeling confused or like you are moving backwards in those areas of your life. However, this nice supportive angle to Chiron at noon just gives us a glimpse and an awareness of our own healing and helps us maybe take one step further in that healing journey before Mercury goes retrograde and we're forced to review a lot of the things that cause us pain, or forced to experience some of our triggers during Mercury retrograde. But today, try to find that lesson in the healing journey. And don't be afraid to have those painful or uncomfortable conversations today, because you will be supported by the planets. And we'll just keep on moving forward, because the good energy continues and actually gets even better by 4 p.m. Pacific time. So here's what that looks like. In a few hours, the moon forms a trine to Mercury. And you'll notice, if you've been watching over the past few days, Mercury's been hanging out right at 10 degrees, because as a planet prepares to station retrograde, keep in mind this is all from our vantage point here on Earth, right? The planets are moving in a constant velocity or speed all the time. But from our vantage point here on Earth, you can imagine us standing here on Earth. We see the sun moving around us. For many years, a lot of humans thought that the Earth was the center of the universe. So we see the sun moving around us every day. And as Mercury moves around the sun very quickly, there's a point before it starts to appear to go retrograde, it starts to appear to move backwards, that it looks like it's almost suspended in the night sky, or suspended in our viewpoint of it. So you can kind of think of it like a pendulum, like Mercury's moving forward, and then it reaches the point where it's about to go retrograde. It's suspended for a second, and then it starts to move backwards. So here it is at 10 degrees, kind of in that suspension point. So, like I said, Mercury's been in its shadow period. We've already started to feel the energy of Mercury retrograde. But today, the moon forms this nice harmonious angle to Mercury, the planet of communication, which is currently in the sign of Aquarius. And Mercury's been in Aquarius for about a week or two now. Mercury in Aquarius is really nice because it helps us think differently. It helps us think more innovatively. It helps us see different perspectives. And this Mercury retrograde is likely to force you to see a different perspective through whatever issues come up for you. Today, though, like I said, all positive today. This nice harmonious angle between the moon in Gemini and Mercury in Aquarius, both in air signs, which are very communication based. This is a nice, easy day to communicate. That's how I see it. Because these planets are working together effortlessly, we can express our emotions effortlessly. We can offer sound advice effortlessly. Don't be surprised if you have some psychic downloads or new information come through that maybe you weren't expecting. This is like our emotional body, because the moon ruling our emotions, flowing with our rational mind, ruled by Mercury. And with the moon in Gemini, also ruled by Mercury, this is like a very intense Mercury energy, but it's a positive Mercury energy because Mercury is still direct, and this is a really positive, fortunate angle between the two planets. So this doesn't mean there won't be any misunderstandings. Let me make that clear. Because Mercury is in its shadow period, because Venus is already retrograde, there could be some misunderstandings. However, the universe is on your side, and good fortune can come from, again, broaching that uncomfortable subject and expressing your emotions, expressing your feelings before Mercury goes retrograde. Today's that day. If there's something that's really been weighing on your heart and you haven't known how to bring it up, or you've been too scared to go there today, okay? Before Mercury officially stations retrograde. Beware that there could still be misunderstandings, but by 10 p.m. Pacific time, just keep on trucking forward here, you'll see that there's another trine, another harmonious 120-degree angle between the moon and Saturn in Aquarius. This helps us broach those uncomfortable conversations. This gives us patience and emotional maturity. We can think more practically and express our emotions more practically. We can feel a little bit more nostalgic as well when the moon forms a harmonious angle to Saturn. So this double trine between the moon and Mercury and Saturn, all happening within about 6 to 8 hours of each other, makes Thursday evening to Thursday night a really good time to try to have those conversations, have that communication, clear the air literally with all of this happening in air signs, clear the air before Mercury stations retrograde. If you don't do it now, it's going to come up during Mercury retrograde. Okay? Like it's gonna happen. That's what happens during retrogrades. Anything that you've been burying down or avoiding usually comes up during retrograde. So you're probably better off to just be in control of the situation and bring it up. Remember, Saturn in Aquarius can make us a little bit more detached. So remember to be kind and compassionate if you are bringing up these conversations, or if you are on the other end and someone you love, someone you know is trying to communicate to you about maybe something they're not happy with you about, or maybe something that's been weighing on their heart that they've been afraid to talk to you about. Just remember above all else to have compassion and empathy in these conversations, and you will benefit. There's a lot of good fortune to be had in trines in general, and especially with these back-to-back trines between the moon in Gemini and Mercury and Saturn in Aquarius. A lot of information will be coming out, coming through, and at the same time, emotions can come through more easily in our communication. So today's the day. Have the talk. And if there isn't some crazy, conversation you've been waiting to have or something, today's a really great day for meditation or allowing messages to come through. Or if, you're feeling good and you're like, I don't need to bring up uncomfortable conversations for no reason, more power to you. Not a bad choice either. But when the moon forms this harmonious angle to Saturn tonight, we're also more inclined to connect with loved ones, and specifically older loved ones, people from the past. So, if you're somebody who has a regular connection with your spirit guides or your ancestors, tonight would be a great night to ask them for messages, or it's just a great night to call your mom, call your grandma, ask them a fun story about your childhood or about the past, especially with Venus retrograde. Like we love to hear stories about the past, right? And actually, learning about the past could give you insight into how to best navigate the present moment as well. So keep that in mind. If there's not an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had or any air that needs to be cleared before Mercury stations retrograde, it could just be a great time to learn information from loved ones, from family members about the past, or even learn new information from friends. Connect with other people, communicate with other people, share how you're feeling, and don't be afraid to lean on other people or be the person to reach out and say hey, let's talk. Sometimes it can be hard to do that, but especially if there is something that's weighing on your heart, don't be afraid to be the one to reach out. And Crystal just asked, could these conversations be with ourselves? Yes, Crystal. Thank you for asking that. If you're like, okay, I got to get real with myself, or I'm having some turmoil or some stuff come up for me, journaling is also a really great way to use this energy. Mercury, because we've been talking about the Gemini moon, has a lot of Mercury energy there, a lot of communication there, as well as Mercury stationing retrograde, this trine to Mercury, all the Mercury things, right? Mercury is our thoughts and our words. So putting your thoughts onto paper through words is a great way to communicate with yourself. Or if you're like me and you just want to talk to yourself, again, process through words. Process your emotions through words while the moon is in Gemini, whether that's writing, whether that's speaking. We'll probably enjoy listening to more content as well, learning that new information. But yes, absolutely, these conversations can be with yourself. I definitely feel in a much better mood today, and I love when Grandma shared pastime stories with me. She's here visiting from Texas. How perfect, Alex. So today's a great day to ask her more stories about the past and connect with her, and really good fortune could come from it, especially tonight when the moon and Saturn harmonize with each other. Yeah, all the power to you if you're like, I can handle things. I'm like a verbal processor. Personally, I literally come on here and process the transits with you verbally every day. So like full transparency, I was having a really rough day yesterday, and I texted my best friend and I was like, can you talk? Like, what are you doing? I need to talk. And we talked for 2.5 hours, and it was mostly just me, like, blah, 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 like, just, needing to process. I'm very grateful I have people in my life who are available for me to do that, and that I have a best friend who is just as chatty as I am and willing to have those conversations. But like I was saying, if you're me and you're a verbal processor or feeling the need to talk, don't be afraid to reach out, because it's not easy for me to do that even with my best friend, to be like, hey, do you have time to talk? Because I'm like, I don't want to, inconvenience them, or what if they're busy, or what if they say no and then I feel all this rejection, like, God, how terrible, right? But don't be afraid to reach out to other people, especially with the moon in Gemini. You might be surprised by how much other people are craving that communication and that conversation as well. All right, so those are the transits today. Very positive. We love to see it. We love a positive day in the transits, especially this week. We've been like all the squares, all the tension. I will say, it's important to note, I don't want to be that toxic positivity. Mercury right here in Aquarius is still squaring off to Uranus. We talked about this a lot yesterday, so if you're feeling like, oh, I need to learn more about that, go back to yesterday's video. I'm not going to go into depth in it again today, but this square will be with us through the 16th, within a degree of each other, within a degree of that 90-degree angle. So this is kind of forcing us to change our perspective, forcing us to see things in a new light, and it could change the way we communicate altogether. So a square can bring that conflict and tension, and if you are a Virgo, a Gemini, or an Aquarius, you will feel this square more than the rest of us, or I'm feeling this square. I'm a Virgo. So, and specifically if you are a Virgo rising, a Gemini rising, or an Aquarius rising, this square, you're probably going to feel that tension. But we can lean into the positive of it and try to see a new perspective, try to see things differently, and have a change in the way we communicate, in the way we think, even in the way we write, or like Crystal was saying, communicate with ourselves, right? What are the thoughts, or what are the words you're telling yourself through your thoughts? How are you speaking to yourself in your own mind? Those are great things to think about, not just with this square between Mercury and Uranus, but in general, with Mercury going retrograde tomorrow, with the moon harmonizing with Mercury today. Keep that in mind. How are you speaking to yourself? How are you speaking to yourself? Thanks for being here, Alex, and tell your grandma I have a wonderful time together. All right, let's do, yes, and it is best to have a great friend to lean on and talk to each other for hours and give each other advice. Absolutely. That's what makes a best friend, That's really, to me at least, that's what makes a best friend. Someone who is going to listen to you go on and on about the same shit over and over again, just so you can get it out and hold that space for you. Okay, let's do a little wrap up and then we will pull a card. So today is all about the Gemini moon, and you might have woken up this morning feeling a boost of energy or optimism as the moon gets a little bit of support from Chiron, the wounded healer, helping us move the needle forward in our healing journey. And then this evening and tonight, the moon forms harmonious angles to Mercury and Saturn. This is a beautiful opportunity to communicate your feelings, to the air, or have any conversations that need be had before Mercury stations retrograde tomorrow. And we can do so with patience and with emotional maturity, with Saturn in the mix. So today is that day to communicate, especially with the moon in Gemini, helping us express our feelings a little bit more easily. Reach out to a friend, talk things out, or if you're feeling more introspective, journaling is a great way to use this energy. Observe how you're talking to yourself, observe whatever information or insights are coming through, and try to get into a clear headspace and a stable headspace before the planet of communication goes full-blown haywire starting this Friday. All right. And like I said, Mercury retrograde isn't the be-all, end-all. The next couple weeks will probably be a little bit more tense because we have not only Mercury retrograde, but Venus retrograde at the same time. So it's going to bring some relationship communication issues to the surface, not just in romantic relationships, but in friendships as well, in business partnerships. Expect the unexpected in those areas. But tuning into these live streams, we're going to talk through it together every day. So if you're having a hard time, if it's uncomfortable, if you're feeling the tension, we're here together. We're going through it together. I got you. You got me. We got this, okay? We got it. Don't fear the retrograde. It's not all terrible. There's always an opportunity with every single transit. All right, let's pull a card. Since we're talking all about the Gemini moon, I am going to pull from the Moonology deck, just a basic little card deck. Let me pull up the guidebook here as well. So we have the message ready to go. 1 second. Luckily, if you guys have been watching a while, sometimes with these digital guidebooks, it takes me forever to find them. But I've gotten to a point where I have them saved in my... These cards are fun because normally oracle cards are really a bridge when I'm shuffling cards is like really impressed right now. As always, this is your time to ask questions. Let me know how you're feeling. If you want a little bit of advice on how this is going to affect your sign, let me know your rising sign or your sun sign, but your rising sign is giving me a lot more information about how this will affect you. And we'll go ahead and pull a card and see what messages need to come through. All right. What do we need to know today? Oh, we got 2 cards. Both flew out of the deck. So let's just see them both. The first one is the new moon in Cancer. Very interesting because we're working up towards the full moon in Cancer next Monday. So maybe this is asking us to think back to Cancer season of 2021, what was going on during the new moon in Cancer. That was probably in the end of June, beginning of July. New moon in Cancer, and the message there is you and your loved ones are safe. So some reassurance. And the second card is the waning moon, not in a specific sign, just the waning moon card asking, what do you need to release? So let me find these descriptions in the guidebook for us really quick, see if there are other insights we can offer. New moon in Cancer is page 48. And the waning moon card is page 100. Okay. We're scrolling. I do like the digital guidebooks, but I don't know. There's also something about the paper guidebook and flipping the pages that's like really, it's really, what is the word I'm looking for? Not validating, but like satisfying. Very satisfying. Okay. Still loading. Okay, here we go. New moon in Cancer. You and your loved ones are safe. There's a new start coming in your private life. Something is rising up in connection with the people and places you hold dearest. This can be to do with a member of your family, a flatmate, or moving homes. If you're hoping to move forward with something special in your private life, This card comes to you as a message that you can do it. If you've been neglecting your family, it's time to reconnect with them. If you've been neglecting yourself, you need to take better care of yourself and nurture yourself more. If your insecurity is holding you back, that's something for you to work on. Doing so could bring you to your heart's desire. Make sure to put your family first. So this card is telling us, giving us the reassurance that we can have those vulnerable conversations. It's safe to have those vulnerable conversations. If you have been not even neglecting your family, but just avoiding discomfort with loved ones, this is telling you that you are safe and that you can move forward with something special to you in your private life. So sometimes moving forward requires us to clear the air and to have those conversations, right? Sometimes we can't move forward until we're willing to address the elephant in the room. All right, and then the second card that flew out of the deck, normally I don't pull 2 cards from this deck, but when they fly out, they want to be read, you know? All right, page 100. I think that's a good omen in itself, page 100. Okay. Waning moon, what do you need to release? The waning moon points to what's falling away. Life goes in cycles, and sometimes we need downtime or to let go. No matter when in the moon cycle you pull this card, it is a sign that a situation has peaked. For better or for worse, it's time for you to go easier. It's the autumn and winter of the cycle, so what do you need to release? Almost certainly something from the situation you're asking about. This card can be very positive, but it can still be gently suggesting that you let something go and stop trying so hard. It is safe to let go and move on. So even further confirmation that we can release that fear and that anxiety around whatever conversations need to be had, whatever realizations that we need to have for ourselves, whatever truth that we've been avoiding or neglecting, it's safe to release the fear or anxiety around that, and you don't have to try so hard. It doesn't have to be so hard. You can just have the conversation. You can just do the journaling. You can just validate yourself or hear the own voice in your head and let it be a positive voice and let go of the negativity or the anxiety that's been holding you back. So these cards are really bringing us the message to connect with loved ones, find that safety within yourself, create that safety for other people, be vulnerable, and release fear or anxiety around your connections with other people under this Gemini moon. Let it loose, let it free. Let your emotions flow freely out of you. Just remember to be patient, be graceful, and be compassionate as you're doing so. But you're safe. Bottom line, these cards are telling you it is safe to move forward. It is safe to release the attachment. Okay. I had a dream I moved last night beside the ocean. Okay, well maybe, that's your sign. Especially last night for you, the moon was squaring off to Jupiter court. So that's like that Jupiter and Pisces energy, like, hey, dream bigger, right? Dream bigger, the sky's the limit court. Maybe that's a intuitive sign that you need to move near the ocean, and then you need to host some astrology retreats that I'm totally down to co-host with you so I can come hang out with you near the ocean. I'm just putting it out there. The moon's in Gemini. It's just coming through, court. I'm just saying. Wow, so you had a dream about the ocean too. Amazing. I love that. Okay, let's all host the astrology retreat near the ocean. Shauna's coming too. It's going to be so much fun. I'm manifesting this. And you're looking to move this year. Okay, so if you move near the ocean too, I have multiple places to come visit near the ocean. Awesome. This is going great for me. Yeah, and the Cancer full moon is coming. So as we're working up to that full moon on Monday, really think back to the past 6 months. What were you manifesting in the middle of last year? What's come to fruition? What's holding you back? What do you need to release before that full moon? What blocks do you need to clear so those manifestations, those intentions can fully come to fruition by the full moon? Done. Yes, it's happening. It's done. And so it is. We're hosting these retreats by the ocean. Beautiful. Oh, I once heard that if you dream about water, your intuition is also telling you to tap into your emotions more. Interesting. That makes sense. And it's very much supported under today's transits to let those emotions flow through, to use our rational mind and our communication to release emotions, right? So again, it really feels like today the energy is telling us, like, what have you been bottling up? What's been stuck inside you that really needs to come out? And I will say, if you don't let it out under today's positive transits, again, Mercury goes retrograde tomorrow, so it's probably going to come up over the next couple weeks. And with that Cancer full moon looming in the next few days, that's a very emotionally heightened full moon. You know, the moon is ruled by Cancer, or the moon rules Cancer, I should say. And a full moon in Cancer can make us very emotional and bring up those deep emotions, right? Like, let them all out. So better to release emotions with Mercury's influence and these positive harmonious transits between the moon and Mercury and Saturn today, rather than just letting the full moon release them for you, right? Oh, good. Totally resonated with the cards you pulled. That makes me happy. All right, and I will say, I asked you guys if you want advice on your sign. Crystal said she is, I don't know if you're a Scorpio or a Scorpio rising, Crystal, but if you're a Scorpio rising, then I will say your Mercury is going retrograde in your 4th house of home and family, and a lot of these Mercury transits are going to be activating your 4th house of home and family. So I would say, I know you were like, can we just do all this communication with ourselves? Like, yes, you can. Journaling is great, and I fully support that. But I would say there might be issues around your childhood, your home, your family, your mother that might be coming up for you, and you know, for you. And then the moon in Gemini for you, if you are a Scorpio rising, would be activating your 8th house, I believe. Yes. So that looks like energy exchange. That looks like sex. That looks like contracts or commitments energetically. So maybe this is an opportunity while the moon is in Gemini, if you're doing that journaling and you're doing that processing, to ask yourself where you're energetically still tied, what attachments you still have energetically to situations, to people, or if there's anything around sex and intimacy coming up for you verbally, or processing that through writing today could be really beneficial and really helpful for you, or over the next couple days as well. But today is just like really that great opportunity to release through words, whether it's speaking or writing, and it's a lot of good fortune around the transits. So like I said, today is the day. Like, let it all out, let it flow through, communicate, talk, write before Mercury goes retrograde. And also, I don't think Mercury stations retrograde until tomorrow night. I could be wrong about that. Let me actually find out. I know that it's going to be retrograde for a couple weeks, but it's kind of nice to know exactly when it's going to go retrograde. Let's see. It will be at, just kidding. I lied. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. So today is really the day. Today is your day. It's the last day of actual clarity when it comes to Mercury's transits. And it's not even fully clear right now because we're in the shadow period already. So, all right. I'm glad that resonated for you, Crystal. Thanks for participating and letting me know what is that your rising sign or your sun sign? I can't remember. All right. Well, tomorrow we're talking all about Mercury retrograde, what to expect, how to best use the energy, and I'll probably, now that I'm saying it out loud, processing verbally with you all, I'll give you like a little mini horoscope for each rising sign about which area of your life Mercury retrograde will affect the most this time around. So that'll be fun. Fun way to like really hone in on the energy that's going to be affecting you and to personalize the Mercury retrograde forecast a little bit more so you can navigate the energy more easily. That's going to do it for me today. This was such a fun way to wake up with you. I know I streamed a little bit later this morning, so I'm glad a lot of you could hop on and engage with me. Always a fun way to start my day. And I hope that you have beautiful, fortunate communication today. I hope you're able to release your emotions, have healing conversations, and clear the air before Mercury stations retrograde tomorrow. But until then, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.